Thanks very much, Leif. Holger, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you.
Congratulations on the victory today.
Thank you.
I don't care what surface it is. It's never easy playing Giovanni. But the serve can be very tricky on these courts. It goes pretty quick. What was the biggest key in returning that serve today?
Yeah, as you say, it's really difficult. You know, in the beginning, I found it a little bit difficult where to stand. And, you know, I did a lot of reaction exercise before the match. I woke up at 7 this morning to be ready in my eyes and stuff. Wow. So, honestly, I think I prepared really well because I respect him a lot. He has such a great serve, and he has also a great forehand. So, you know, I was just also accepting that sometimes you just can't do anything and just focus on your own serve. And the tiebreak was, was brutal.
Control the controllables. Yeah, you put a lot of pressure on him. He finally served that double at the end there. People don't get to hear that very often. Preparation with the eyes. Can you give us an example of something you did?
Yeah, we did something, you know, with the ball, you know, moving around, and you just keep your head still and you just look with the eyes. It looks a bit funny, but it's really effective. And then, you know, also exercise catching ball, you know, always being aware. And there are many exercises. It's very important because it's all about the reaction, how fast you react to the ball. So I think that's a really interesting part that, you know, is not maybe used that often.
Very cool. It certainly worked out there for you today. Holger, of course, you know, we were all like, oh my goodness, is that Holger and Andre over there in DC? It was very cool to see those pictures together. And, you know, for any of us who've been able to speak with Andre, he's got such a fascinating mind. He looks at the game so uniquely. What was that experience like? It
was insane. You know, as I have also said, I've never, you know, met a guy who sees tennis that way. And I found it very interesting. You know, he makes things very, very simple on the court. You know, I think, you know, sometimes tennis can be a very difficult sport. Sometimes it can be a very easy sport, but there's always a reason for why it's that or that. And I think, you know, some of the advice he gave me was very helpful, and also, you know, to share those 3 days, and, you know, for him to get a look at my game, and it was just amazing, you know. And also, you know, with my coach Lars, he really appreciated. They talked a little bit also, and you know, we're still in touch. He actually messaged me after the match today, so it was nice.
That's fantastic. So he's watching. One of the, I mean, look, Andre did so many incredible things in his career, but one of the transformations I loved in his game was in the beginning he was, you know, he was blasting away, but then he made a shift into really thinking about what makes the opponent uncomfortable.
Yes.
And he was able to really win on days where he wasn't playing his best. Did you guys get into any of that?
Definitely. You know, every time I start talking about, oh, I feel like that, and he's like, remember, there's a guy there. You know, there's a guy on the other side, and maybe he feels terrible. You know, you never know. So it's all about playing what you have. You know, also hiding if you don't feel well, and making it uncomfortable for the opponent. You know, sometimes you don't have it straight in the sweet spot, but you can still, you know, take it early and play it deep. So, you know, that's also tough for the opponent. So, you know, a lot of those things, and you know, also not feeling that I have to play at 90, 100% to win a match. You know, I can also win on you know, 70, 75. You know, so I think a lot of interesting thing, and I think I learned a lot. It was a lot of good information for me.
Hey, listen, I love hearing that. He was obviously the first one to really step inside the baseline, take half volleys on a full cut. You know, you're pretty nasty inside the baseline too. He must have given you some big compliments about your game too.
Definitely, he loved my second serve return. You know, he was like, that's the one. You know, that he was just watching, and you know, no advice there. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I've obviously watched so many YouTube clips with him, and how he was taking the ball early and making really. I mean, it was so clear to see how he made life easy for him on the court. You know, I watched the highlights of him playing Roger in US Open, and you know, if Roger gets a bit too central, you know, he pushed him in the corner, and it's just nice to see, because for me it's a little bit before my time, so I didn't grow up with watching Andre, but you know, to look back and how tennis was there, it's really interesting to see.
Very cool to get an insight on your experience with him. Tell me where you're at. We know we pulled out of DC last week with citing the back, I believe, but you look very healthy out there right now. Where is the body? The little prep time between Wimbledon and here, it's not much. So how do we feel going into the hard court season?
We feel good, honestly. I mean, I had a small back spasm in Washington, but nothing dangerous. You know, it's treated now. I got a lot of, you know, good massage, a lot of good treatment, some needling. So it's feeling good. And I had good practices here, and good first round. The body feels healthy also after today. And after Wimbledon, obviously big disappointment. Don't want to think about the past, but yeah, I took a week off actually. It's the first time in a long time I haven't touched a racket for 7 days. So that was, I think, good for me, and just rested, recharged, and started training very hard also physically. So I feel ready. Yeah.
Number 29 seed Alexander Muller in the next round. You guys haven't played before. What's it like going into a round? You guys have obviously seen each other, but don't know what it feels like.
Yeah, we trained, I think, a few times together, and he's a very different player than I play today. You know, more of a grinder. You know, good forehand, good backhand, good movement. So definitely going to be a different tactical plan. You know, building the points, taking control as early as possible, and then yeah, I just want to keep serving like I did today. That's going to help me a lot.
Well, you listen, man. You were awesome out there, and keep coming and visiting us.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Leif, back to you guys.